My few things that bother me about the potential low being in is that we still haven't seen enough disruption in the overall crypto market. So, you go to coins, they've all been discounted, some of them 95%, some of them 90%. Even Ethereum is down significantly, although the bounce has been just absolutely awesome on Ethereum. But to me, I look at that sector and I'm like, how can this many coins still exist? And if this is the bottom and now we're headed up, how does that work? How do we have so many coins in the system at that point? So for me, that's one of the issues. And also looking back and comparing it to the .com era, you haven't seen that full capitulation. I mean, we did see fear when we were below the 2017 highs, but we didn't see that all out, like throw your hands up in the air, crypto's over kind of mentality, which is usually what notes the bottom. And then my other issue would be is, even though I do think the Fed, like you said, is going to essentially stop hiking by later this year and probably even start easing in 2023, the question is, why are they doing that? And my guess is you're starting to see a real destructive event going on in the economy, right? And if you see the NASDAQ starting to really collapse down, and I don't think the NASDAQ's bottomed by any stretch, I think it's got to go down 40-50% at minimum, then what you're saying is that you'll see a pivot in Bitcoin where it starts to strengthen when the NASDAQ and the stocks actually go down, which I actually agree eventually that happens. Yeah. I just don't know if this is the time frame where that happens. So I think that, it's definitely a possibility. If there's one thing, just like Game of Thrones, if there's one thing I know nothing, kind of, nothing Jon Snow, right? You have to respect the charts, that they're the ones that are always right, and you just don't know. But for me, I'd be amazingly surprised if all of a sudden it's the new bull run and here we go to the upside. Now, I will show this. I do have a level that I'm watching. If we take out this level and confirm, then I would tend to agree with you on that, right? So if you connect the high from 69,000 here to this high, notice how this line is right around 30,000 right now. It will slope down right into this 28,000 area, probably in about a month or so, right? Now, if we somehow get above that, then that is a breakout on the charts. That would get my attention. And I think that would be the one case where I would say, okay, now I actually kind of do believe that the bottom is in, and now we could go back to 69, 70, 80, 100,000 on Bitcoin. But until then, we're still in a pretty steep downtrend. And really, if you look at this move, even if we go up to 25, 26, or even 28, that's all an inside bar bearish pattern from this move down, or better yet, even from this move down. And the last thing I'll just mention is that I still have a measured move where you take this high here to this low here, right? And then you had this consolidation pattern, right? So we have this kind of sideways channel. And then if you take that same distance from here and you extend it out, you actually get right around 12,000. So this line is the same as this line, and that gives me that kind of bottom area. So again, anything can happen, and that's the beauty of investing and why it's so freaking fun.
Of course.
But for me, I'll take that opposing bet. I still think we're going to 12, 13,000. Unfortunately, I even think there's a chance we could go lower, but let's take one step at a time. One of the reasons why I was starting to talk up a bounce, so everyone knows I called for 20,000 when we were at 69,000. One of the reasons, I mean, there were chart signals, but there was also just so much crazy bullishness that it was almost the easy way to go, which was just say, okay, well, if everyone's bullish, then it's not going to go that way. And same thing when we were below the 2017 highs of 19.5 or so, everyone was just like doom and gloom. And it's like, okay, well, now we're due for a bounce. We're oversold. Right. They've run the stops, which were at 19.5, which was a 2017 high. It made sense that we would see a bounce there. So the question is, as we rally, like when we see 26, 28, like you're saying, which I think we do see, do we then see everyone start to say the bottom's in, which then the contrarian view would be back to the downside? Of course. You still have people that are willing to take the risk by putting money in those. Yeah. And I think that money has to be wiped out, so I think that, you may, maybe the top 50 survive, maybe, who knows, and there will be new ones that have great use cases that come out, just like new companies come out all the time. But I want to see that period where anyone speculating on the 1,001th cryptocurrency by market cap, that needs to be wiped out. That can't be in the system anymore unless there's a real use case to it. And people will argue there is, right? Oh, this one is about cats, or this one's about dogs, or like, and for me, I'm just like, really, we're in the real world here where you actually need to have some sort of use case that's legitimate. Okay. So one of the things in TA that's important to understand is that the longer you stay away from a line, the more it firms up. So I would expect another bounce. So if you look at how long it's been away from this line, from here to here, this line has firmed up a little bit. So it will still be support. But again, if it bounces and then hits it again, my guess is it does break at that point. So I'm really focusing on this next hit, if we get there, as being a really important one where we bounce and we need to start heading back up. Well, the only thing I can make sense of is that the market is looking at peak inflation. And I think that's probably the kicker, right? So we saw PPI numbers 11%. We saw CPI numbers like 9.1 or 9.2%. And people are saying, and this is why, by the way, the market has rallied as well, is that, okay, well, those are massively, ridiculously high inflation numbers, but we've seen copper collapse, nickel collapse, oil collapse, lumber collapse. So it's very apparent that inflation should be coming down now in the next few readings. And if inflation is coming down and people are saying, okay, well, the Fed's going to somehow magically get this inflation back in Pandora's box and get it to 2%, well, then you're right. Then the markets are going to rip and everyone wants risk on, which is why crypto's going up, why stocks are going up. But then why would you hold gold, right? If inflation's going away in the perfect world, which I don't think it will, but that's what the thought process is. I think that's why you're seeing near-term downside in gold. I think what the market will have to do is start to realize that inflation's not really going away. It may come down from 11 or 9% to 5 or 4%, but then it's going to be sticky for the next 10 years at 4 to 5%. And that eventually you're going to see an economy that weakens, and the Fed can't, like everyone's fooling themselves if they think the Fed can all of a sudden print trillions and trillions of dollars again in the next recession to get us out of it with inflation at 4 to 5%. Because guess what? Then you're going to see inflation at 15 or 20%. So that's going to be the period where the realization hits that, okay, inflation's here to stay and the Fed can't do a lot about a recession, which means risk off is going to take hold again. One of my cases, again, for why the NASDAQ, S&P are still headed a lot lower. And while unfortunately, I think crypto may have that one more dump as well. So the best way to do it is, let me use my hands here. So right now you have inflation high, unemployment low, right? And I'm trying to get this in the camera. But as inflation comes down, the economy, because they're tightening, unemployment's going to go up, right? And when you get unemployment high enough, they're going to say, oh my goodness, we now need to stimulate to bring down unemployment. And then this is going to go up. So it's going to be like this, back and forth, right? And they're going to it's like whack-a-mole, that game where you whack the thing popping out of the hole back, one over here, one over here, so yeah.